Okay, so if you don't know, today Trump made an announcement that he was probably going to be arrested on Tuesday, and he told his supporters to rally, protest, and take back our nation. You can find the post yourself on this platform called Truth Social. Obviously, him once again telling people to take back the nation is a matter of concern with respect to the incidences that happened on January 6th and the Capitol being raided. So that announcement was actually a part two of an initial post that he made, basically saying that crime and inflation is destroying the country, the American dream is dead, we're turning into a third world country. He made sure to emphasize that immigration is a huge problem and criminals and the mentally ill are flooding in through the borders. And he also made sure to emphasize that the election was stolen from him, which is obviously pretty ironic considering the fact that Hillary won the majority vote when he became president in 2016. However, I really want to touch base on just a very small segment of a recent speech that Trump made, just because I find it super hypocritical, contradictory, and ironic.
But the greatest threat to Western civilization today is not Russia. It's probably, more than anything else, ourselves. And it's the Marxists who would have us become a godless nation worshiping at the altar of race and gender and environment.
So in that speech, Trump says that the biggest threat to America is ourselves, and then goes on to further emphasize that it's specifically the perpetuation of a godless nation, Marxism, and the worshiping of gender, race, and the environment. So the first hypocrisy in that is the fact that in the Constitution, we obviously have freedom of religion. And so we're not supposed to have religious faiths or beliefs influence our laws or our nation or our society. So it's super ironic and just flat out hypocritical that the former president, is talking about the lack of religious influence on our nation is our biggest downfall. It's a major hypocrisy because coming from the right, coming from conservatives, Republicans, who so wholeheartedly, it's in the Constitution, it's by the Constitution, give respect to the Constitution, Second Amendment, the right to bear arms is in the Constitution, and then constantly throwing the Constitution as a justification as to why we apparently can't protect children because people are allowed to have guns and it's in the Constitution. And then it's also the same people that are pushing religious agendas on societal influence, even though freedom of religion is in the Constitution. So it's just a hypocrisy, and it's a contradiction. Like, are we following the Constitution or are we not? And just even more specifically and personally relating to Trump and why it's just such a hypocrisy that this man is preaching about a godless nation, when the whole reason that he thinks he's going to go to jail on Tuesday has to do with his involvement in the hush money with the porn star Stormy Daniels that he cheated on his wife with. So it's like, you're so concerned about God, and isn't adultery a sin? Beyond that, so he goes on to attack Marxism, gender and race, and the environment, which obviously we see all these crazy new bills and law proposals that are going on with banning books, banning critical race theory, banning gender studies, women's studies. So all these bans that are going on about bringing awareness, bringing education to these topics, to these communities. And then you have Donald Trump talking about how we're now worshiping these things and it's a downfall to our nation, when in reality we're finally bringing awareness to the lack of civil rights that certain communities have, the disparities and the disproportionalities that are going on in marginalized communities. It's not worshiping, it's about finally bringing awareness and respect to the fact that people are treated differently based on gender and based on race. We're talking about a guy who, I forgot to mention when talking about the religious hypocrisy. This is the same dude that banned Muslims from entering or exiting the nation. And then this is the same dude that talked about you can't rape your wife and grab women by the pussy, but then he has a problem with gender discussions. It's just all around a hypocrisy, and it's a perpetuation of oppression, and it's a way to silence suffrage. That's what these bans on critical race theory are about. That's what these bans on sex education, LGBTQ education is all about. It's about suppressing the reality and the truth so that they can maintain the perpetuation of oppression. Literally since the beginning of, I think, all of our public educations, formal educations, kindergarten through high school, we were all taught the significance of learning history was that so we learn from the past and we don't repeat it. And now we see that colleges, universities, even public schools are trying to bring more awareness and more diversity education to the classrooms to teach the real truth, not the whitewashed version that we've all been getting, but the real truth about history. And now you see the right progressively attacking that and banning it through these book bans, through the critical race theory ban. I mean, why are we attempting to ban critical race theory, something that teaches the reality of white supremacy in this country, if we're not trying to learn from the mistakes of white supremacy? Ignorance has been utilized as the perpetuation of oppression since the foundation of this nation, since colonization. And it's just such a slap in the face and alarming reality to really understand that that's what is happening right now. We are consistently being kept ignorant to the truth, to the reality, because it makes it easier for us to be controlled. It makes it easier for us to assimilate, for us to depend on the government for information, for money, for all these things. That's why we're not taught the truth about a lot of things, because they know that if we knew the truth, it would stop the perpetuation of all this division that's going on between individuals. And as a mass, we would unite to attack the real problem in this nation, which is capitalism. And with that being said, that gets me to the other point that Trump said, which was the downfall of this nation, which was Marxism and the worshiping of the environment. So Marxism is literally a political theory that attacks and analyzes the inherent flaws in capitalism and materialism. And Karl Marx's entire ideology was based on the fact that capitalism is unsustainable and it's a perpetuation of suffrage. So basically, Marxism is anti-capitalism. So it's super ironic that we do consistently see all of these issues and catastrophes and things going on in the nation that are all fueled, money motivated. They're fueled by green paper. And so for Donald Trump to say that trying to address that and dismantle that is the downfall of the nation is just a complete hypocrisy and contradiction to what we all know is the root of issues. It's greed. It's the perpetuation of power, which people are getting through money. And his attack on Marxism goes hand in hand with the environment, because the perpetuation of capitalism is what is literally destroying our environment. The more that we desire, the more that we consume, the more that the earth literally suffers itself, but also the more that humanity suffers. We can't continuously consume materials and not think that there is advertent and inadvertent effects taking place. So one of the big points that Karl Marx talks about to support his Marxism and why he has an issue with capitalism is the fact that capitalism means that a fraction, a business, one person, the 5%, the elite, consistently get richer, consistently gain more by giving less to the majority, to the laborers, to the workers. So they're intentionally paying the absolute bare minimum to increase their profit margin. And we see this exact same thing happening when it comes to the environment, because Donald Trump himself rolled back regulations and protections on the over 100 environmental regulations solely for the purpose of financial reasonings, to save some type of business money, to save some type of corporation money. He allowed dumpings, pollution. Just another example of how capitalism is perpetuating these issues. And the irony involving Trump is, for example, all the train derailments that we keep seeing, the huge one that happened in East Palestine, Ohio. We saw Trump roll back the regulations, the safety regulations on trains and their braking and all these things when he was the president. And it's just ironic that now we see all these train derailments that we've never seen before. And what was the purpose of him rolling back the safety regulations of trains? It was about money. Another example of how capitalism is perpetuating other issues is, for example, the cobalt mining that's going on in the Congo, where they're literally enslaved essentially to this cobalt that they're trying to mine. They're working in absolutely absurd, harsh conditions to get it. They're digging it out with their bare hands. We're talking about kids being there, just absolutely inhumane conditions for absolutely pennies to perpetuate this desire of mass consumption of the energy for our technology and our electric cars and our tablets and our phones that we are desiring so bad that other people are paying the price for. Something else that I also learned today that really blew my mind was that they have now literally made a concrete linkage to whale fatalities and online shopping. So essentially, climate change is forcing the food that the whales eat, the fish and other animals in there that they eat, to come closer to the surface and come closer to the shore. Thus, the whales are now coming closer to the surface and coming closer to the shore. On top of that, because of online shopping and the insane demands of materialism, there's way more cargo vessels in the seas and the waterways than ever before. And since these whales are now coming to the surface, they're colliding with these ships. They're literally dying. Whales are dying because we're online shopping. And on top of it, it's online shopping. It's these cargoes. It's all this stuff that we're consuming that's degrading the environment, that's causing the climate change in the first place. So the fact that Trump is very clearly all about money over humanity, which of course is why he would be anti-Marxism, because he's super pro-capitalism, because money is everything that he's about. He's the businessman that ran the country. But Marxism is about not a fraction of people having so much that they could never need, while majority of people have too little to survive. And one of the key points of Marxism is this idea of alienation. So Karl Marx pretty much says that capitalism is making, the average worker, the average laborer, feel disconnected from their true identity and what they're actually capable of contributing to society, because capitalism perpetuates such drastic demands for materials and honestly things that we don't need, yet we all have to make money. We all have to go to work. We all have to work 40 hours a week, work 9 to 5s. And so we're not focused on following our true purpose or chasing our dreams anymore. We're also worried about chasing money and chasing a bag, whether it's for literal survival, because inflation, housing costs, just everything is absolutely outrageous anymore, that families can't even sustain living on 2-income homes. So imagine the majority of us. But the point is that materialism perpetuates capitalism, which perpetuates everything, literally everything. Capitalism is the roots of racism, sexism. It's about greed. It's about power. And the way that you are superior to anything or anybody is if something is inferior to you, if something is beneath you. And so we've seen throughout history, from religion to sex to race to economic status to sexuality to all these different things. We've seen oppression, suffrage, genocide, Holocaust, slavery, all these horrible things that have happened. And if you literally get to the root of all of them, it's all about someone having some sort of power, materials over someone else. Even before, we had even before America was ever established, people have been fighting over currency and status in society since the beginning of time nearly. So we see these things globally, we've seen them historically, they're still prevalent to this day, but we see this huge perpetuation of these issues in Western societies like America because its materialism is so ingrained in societal norms and expectations that we all think that it's normal to want to go to work for 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, so that we can go buy a Gucci bag or a Chanel bag or drive a nice car or have nice materials so that other people think that we make money. We're literally perpetuating capitalism by desiring to consume things and have flashy, nice things that literally actually mean nothing, and they're destroying the environment, and they're distracting us. And that's just the American dream aspect, work hard, make money, and buy yourself things to make you happy. When in reality, most people today in America are struggling to survive, struggling to even live comfortable, let alone be the elite that has private islands and jets and can go to any country they want during a pandemic, and when everything else is locked down, they're taking family vacations and going golfing. That's what capitalism perpetuates. It perpetuates a family not being able to save their child's life because there's a patent on life-saving insulin, but other families have so much money that they own islands. And Marxism is all about addressing that, examining the true issues and flaws with capitalism and figuring out a way to sustain society in a way that's beneficial to all, not just the select few that we dream of, chase the American dream to be one day. No, it's about making life enjoyable and livable for everyone. It's about people actually finding their purpose and working jobs and not so that it's not a job anymore. Actually enjoy the contribution that they're putting into society instead of feeling like they're killing themselves every single day and have nothing. Call it socialism, call it communism, call it whatever you want to call it. But the point is about everybody having something, not just everybody working for a very select few so that they can have everything while everybody else struggles to pick up the scraps and literally hates life because they're living someone else's dream. We as a nation, as a species in general, because these problems are global, are just way too conditioned to endorse and perpetuate materialism. I mean, literally, look at the ingredients of Captain Crunch. They're putting red and yellow carcinogens in there just to alter the appearance so that more people want to consume it. So instead of keeping it its natural color, to make it more healthy for consumption, they're literally putting in toxins and chemicals and cancers because they know that it will make us, the people, more likely to want to buy it because we are distracted by nice things. We want shiny things. We want to have the nice car in the nice house at the risk of our literal health and safety. And so when you have political leaders and people with societal influence openly endorsing capitalism and the very things that are literally causing death globally, it becomes increasingly alarming and reflects to why our education is being attacked. There's a lot of people currently right now that don't know about half of the things that I've said in here. And the goal of banning books, banning critical race theories, banning conversations about these things is to make it more and more and more likely that people don't know the truth about the things that they're supporting, the things that they're consuming, literally the things that are controlling their daily lives. Just understand that the more you desire, the more that you consume materials and perpetuate materialism, the more that people suffer somewhere, especially with all this online shopping, fast fashion, the importing and exporting of materials from other nations solely for the purpose of the fact that it's cheaper because they're paying their laborers so significantly less. We're talking children and women and men in sweatshops working long hours under horrible conditions for such little pay just so that we can have a cheaper handbag or a cheaper pair of shoes is immoral, and we need to stop supporting it. And the way to stop supporting it is, for one, stop supporting brands that are publicly known to export from areas where slave labor, child labor is extremely common, and stop supporting people like Donald Trump, who openly puts his own citizens, the nation's safety, at risk solely for the benefit of profit, solely for financial gains for corporations and businesses that are literally causing cancers, causing environmental degradation, causing pollution, causing lower air quality, water quality, solely just to make money. We have to stop supporting this stuff for ourselves, for our earth, for the future.